And what do you value? You want homeless people not in your neighborhood, or do you want to fix American citizens and give them the care that they need? It's a campaign on just, we're going to sweep them out so you won't have to see them.
What they have done to urban areas all over this country, it's driving the residents crazy, and it's vexing.
Hello, everybody. Guys, this panel gets pretty intense. Let's get right into it, and we'll talk about it.
A troubling report on the state of homelessness in this country. The Department of Housing and Urban Development finding an 18% increase in homelessness in 2024, with more than 770,000 people without a home of their own. Among the causes driving this surge is a lack of affordable housing, a rise in migrants seeking shelter, and natural disasters. So what are the Trump administration's plans to address this crisis? This is a real sad state of affairs for this country, and it should be a black mark, honestly. Almost 20% surge. I should say, HUD says some of it is driven by a surge earlier in the year of migrants into the United States. Maybe that's the case as well. But there's a problem going on in this country with homelessness, with mental health, with drug use, and it's showing up on our streets.
Absolutely. I mean, you see it on the streets of New York City. You see it in cities all over the country. What I think the lesson of the homelessness crisis is, especially for liberals and progressives who believe that it's fundamentally a problem of the price of housing rather than of necessarily mental illness and drugs, is that we need DOGE, not just at the federal level, but we need DOGE in every state. We need a DOGE in every city, because the reason housing prices are so high is because the housing market is so overregulated. You can't build more supply. So we got to look at zoning laws that are unnecessary. We got to look at multifamily housing, and that's going to upset people. You know, it's difficult to run on that because I've got a nice view out of my apartment, and I don't want them building a skyrise. So I support those laws that disallow people to build. But we've got to look at the regulations at the state and local level and get rid of the ones that are preventing people from building houses. That's the only way housing prices are going to come down.
And on the campaign trail,
These people, a Republican at his best, he's such a bootlegger. What are you talking about? We need DOGE in every state. DOGE hasn't done anything. Are you kidding me? Elon and Vivek are looking like complete buffoons right now with this whole H-1B visa thing. Like, what are you talking? We need DOGE. Yeah, we need the richest man in the world to go into each state and decide what he thinks is best for them and most efficient and cost effective for them. Really? Do you really want to put that in the hands of the richest man in the world? You don't think he would use that to enrich himself? Like, is this guy an idiot? And instead of, guys, this is simple. There's a reason why affordable homes are, there's no affordable homes. It's called greed. People are not making enough money. Guys, we have private equity firms and investment firms buying up neighborhoods and making rent-only neighborhoods so that everyday Americans like me and you cannot buy them. And you know who defends them and pushes policies that defend them further? Idiots like him and the Republican Party. Guys, there's the 1% in this country, the super rich. They're just harboring all this money. Right, and they want returns on their investments. Right, like there's more than enough housing. There's more than enough money to go around. These guys are just taking the supply out, right? The money supply. Right, we all understand supply and demand. If that money was more spread out, people could obviously afford things, and companies aren't paying enough either. Like holistically,
President Trump talked a bit about potentially selling federal lands to developers if they are required to have a certain percentage of that land that's developed ultimately go to affordable housing. So we have 650 million acres of federal land that could potentially, some of that be sold off to these developers. That's something that's been talked about for this administration. Obviously, there's only so much the federal government can do. They continue to give money. They could give more. They could maybe look at potentially having certain restrictions on the money and how it's spent. having some accountability. They, increased, I think, 11% last year in the federal money given to the states, but yet we saw that 18% increase. So finding strategies that work on where that money could go to actually decrease what we're seeing in the homeless numbers. And then, of course, one of the other things that many people have talked about is banning encampments. They can only do that on federal land, so there's not much they can do. That's been done at the state and local level.
Go ahead.
But as an actual economist, right? Like, we have to separate two things, right? The homeless problem is not a problem of the housing supply, right? Like, there are actually more empty houses in America than there were 10 years ago and 20 years ago. So it is the corporatization, like all of this stuff that Republicans talk about, privatization of the industry and less in regulation, all of that has been gone. Like, the housing, the increase in homelessness is taking place outside of large cities where it's not and we know that it's not a problem of affordability, right? It is a problem of the capturing of the housing supply by corporate entities.
But isn't that also an affordability issue? I mean, if the corporate entities are
and the other part of that, right,
is
That's exactly it, right? There's more corporate entities buying up homes. And they're not going to sell it for the price that they got it for. They're going to sell it up for higher. So instead of you being able to buy that house for $300, now it's costing you $350, $400. Right? And you keep doing this over and over, you have a 30% increase in home prices in 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Right? Like, you guys, you have to understand, and MAGA, Republicans out there, these super rich people that you're constantly defending, multi-billionaires like Trump and Elon, these people are just hoarding money. They talk about efficiency and effectiveness. I'm sorry, but having $400 billion, just really, does one person need that? Or would it be better off if Americans had that money? The rest of Americans, lower class income, middle class Americans had that. Like, the wealth is just not spread out evenly. It's the haves and the have-nots. It's the owners and the renters.
Mental health care and addiction, and we've always been fighting it in the wrong ways, right? But I think we have to separate those two things. I think we should be careful because the homelessness problem is not a problem of not enough houses available.
Not enough affordable
It's
housing.
not only
This is the
enough.
problem.
It's not only a problem of housing, for sure,
Right.
but I think the cost of housing is part of
Which
it.
has been
it's
driven
not
up
only
by the corporatization.
And it's not
of
only a
these
problem
empty
in
houses.
urban areas either. It's also a challenge in the suburbs. And I would say don't throw regulations completely out the window, because HUD had a regulation called Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing that would have incentivized, thank God it was put back in place under this administration after the Trump administration rescinded it, it would have incentivized suburban communities to desegregate, change their own local zoning laws to desegregate and therefore allow for more development of affordable housing in those communities, like including parts of New York State. So I think it's really important to be creative in using the regulatory process to encourage development in a smart way that's not
Let
discriminatory.
me play what Trump has said. This is a campaign video that he put out last year about what he would do about the problem of homelessness.
When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets, to address this crisis in our own country. Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. For those who have addictions, substance abuse, and common mental health problems, we will get them into treatment. And for those who are severely mentally ill and deeply disturbed, we will bring them back to mental institutions where they belong.
So there's a lot in there, and it was a much longer video. But one thing I just want to highlight, because we haven't really talked about it except glancingly, the severely mentally ill are the biggest chunk of the population here, 139,000 people. There right now really is not much out there for them. We don't have a social safety net for people.
Guys, that's a perfect example again of how the rich is just screwing this country. Severely mentally ill. These people cannot. This healthcare system is not affordable. So even if you were aware of the help you needed, if you don't make a certain amount of money or work for a company that has a good enough healthcare benefits or plans or whatever, you're not getting the medicine that you need. chronic substance abuse, guys, substance abuse tends to go up as depression goes up. Depression usually, at least in this country, a lot of the times is connected to finances. It's like, this is all pretty simple to me, guys. For the past 20, 30 years, 40 years, whatever, how many years you want to look back, the wealth gap is getting wider and wider. And MAGA voters out there, it's not the black person getting a job that you think you deserved. It's not the Hispanic person that's coming over the border. These are not the reasons why you are making less money or why you can't afford a house. Instead of looking to your sides, look up. It's the upper class. It's the super rich that are able to buy multiple properties, not only to live in, but multiple properties to flip or sell. And then there's companies that are literally buying up neighborhoods.
People who are mentally ill, and that is why they end up on the street.
Well, they don't need a safety net. We need more mental health institutions. I guess there was a point in this country where we decided that institutionalizing people was stigmatizing, so we stopped doing it. We need mental health institutions. There are going to be people who are going to have mental illness all their life. And they're either going to live in an institution or they're going to live on the streets. That's number one. Number two, I do think the permissive drug culture in this country, which is getting more permissive by the day, is a real problem. You go into homeless encampments and you're going to find largely two things: mental illness and drug addiction. And right now we seem to be on a bent towards drug culture and drug permissiveness. And we're going to rue the day.
Is it permissiveness or is it addiction?
I think it's
both. So both of those things are
permissiveness is leading to addiction.
Well,
in my
so
opinion.
both of those things can be addressed as a healthcare issue, right? Like when we talk about severely mental ill, they don't most people don't become severely mentally ill. We've ignored parts of the population for so long and didn't treat it as healthcare, didn't treat addiction as healthcare, and then you get severely mentally ill and say, wow, we just lock them up into institutions where we know that we can address the problem. We can't solve the entire problem, but we can address the problem better than we have. And the removal of that social safety net, the campaigning to dismantle the little safety net that we have with Medicare, Medicaid, and even Obamacare will increase that problem. And when you talk about politics and this issue, right, aside from the economic part of it, it is a problem of what we believe in and what we value as a country. And what do you value? You want homeless people not in your neighborhood, or do you want to fix American citizens and give them the care that they need? And those are two different things. When you base a campaign on just, we're going to sweep them out so you won't have to see them.
Well, that's why I wanted to play that, because
this is what Republicans do. Just let's make it illegal. No more encampments. Like, again, never thinking about how we got here. It's the same thing with immigration. All these immigrants come into this country. Oh my God. Look at all the immigrants, the Democrats, without understanding why they're coming here. If you start thinking about as to the why things are happening, maybe you can find these solutions. But these people always have the most cruelest view of things. And not once did these guys, Scott Jennings or Coleman Hughes, blame companies or the super rich. Like, I don't know why, why the rich are, in my view, if we have a housing shortage, you shouldn't be allowed as a human, as a one person, rich person, be able to buy 5-6 homes as residential homes. Why? If we have a housing issue, why can't we ban that at least for a while? Right? Because this economy favors the rich.
I do think, just if you're being fair to what he is saying here, he is laying out treatment for people who need it. He's laying out help for people who are down on their luck. It's in there.
Well, it's interesting that.
But he also
you talk
talks about removing encampments.
Of course, but
the visibility of it.
Look, these encampments and what they have done to urban areas all over this country, it's driving the residents crazy, and it's vexing the local officials. They don't know what to do about it. I'll tell you something else. You talk to people who run urban hospitals and emergency rooms. They are the social safety net. Homeless people walk in. Yeah. You can't deny them services, and they're taking up a lot of bed space, and it's affecting the local health care. So for people who show up with actual problems, some actual emergency, so it's another area where we don't have the infrastructure to just deal with these people going through these revolving doors, which is why I think the Trump plan, more mental health facilities, more drug addiction treatment facilities, and a less permissive drug culture would be a good thing.
All right, guys.
These are the same people. More prisons, right? More jails. to put all the criminals in there. All right, these are not solutions. He's treating homelessness like these people are like a fast, like a rat. Like, how do we get rid of this infestation that's driving people crazy? Like, there's tons of stories out there of everyday people, regular, no drugs, no mental illness, that become homeless because the economy just squeezed them out. This is truly unbelievable. Again, and guys, and especially MAGA voters out there, because the left, I'm pretty sure, understands this. Taxes. If the rich was paying their fair share of taxes, there would be more money to create this safety net for the lower income, for the mentally ill, for the middle class. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments. This video was pretty frustrating to me. I know it's different than what we usually watch, but I thought it was interesting. I'm going to leave it there. Please subscribe if you're not. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.